Thank you. All right. Today AI is so global, but the truth is many of the large models that we use are built and trained in major power centers outside of Southeast Asia. And that matters because the origins of AI dictate and shape how it understands what it thinks and who it represents. So how can we really make sure that AI doesn't just reach ASEAN, but really represents it? It's a big question. So I'm so honored to have three people who are at the heart of this conversation to join me here today as we unpack this. So please put your hands together to welcome these panelists here. Well, I want to start with local voices, right? Global AI models are incredibly powerful, but they might not, if you might experience, they might not always understand the nuance of our languages, our cultures, and daily realities. Ilaria, I want to start with you because you've talked a lot about responsible innovation in emerging markets. That's so important. So how can global AI companies really make sure that their products actually serve local needs?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I think by the fact that we're sitting in this room at this fantastic Bloomberg event means we're all guilty of being in the weird model, W-E-I-R-D, Western, educated, rich, industrialized, and democratic. And many fantastic English models out there that are driving the AI innovation are from companies that want to also maximize how they can commercialize their products, which means they're probably less incentivized to reflect Khmer and a random language in an island out of many thousands of islands in Indonesia. Hence, when we look at Indonesia local voices, I think the first thing we have to recognize is how do we make sure the local data, local people's story, local cultural context, even the unspoken language, because language is not just words, it's how I'm looking at you, or like, how am I physically feeling? Those are all languages that tell you what people are wanting, feeling, and responding. So I think that type of local context is very key. First of all, recognizing what are the biases. Even some local texts, we think they're local ASEAN texts, are actually texts that are written by post-colonial Western people's interpretation of ASEAN. And a lot of those texts actually were taken at face value and translated just into local languages, and people think that it actually records truth. So I think that people cannot just say, oh, this is it, this is a text, this is local. We have to double click, triple click, make sure that it actually reflects the true lives and voices of ASEAN people. So that's the first, and then the next point is actually the unspoken expression. There was a story about a Filipino expression called sampong. How many Filipinos are here? Yeah, so I learned that there's an expression that describes cranky mood, okay? Which is not a big deal. However, someone used ChatGPT and asked, okay, what is this condition? And it responded with saying that it is a very serious mental instability condition, which is permanent rather than a passing feeling of crankiness. Now, if we scaled up this type of adoption of AI to help us assess people's condition and translate it to treatment of people, what's going to happen? In America, you can actually get locked up in mental institution, have your custody rights taken away from you if they don't think you're mentally fit to be with your children. You can lose your guardianship. We saw what happened to Britney Spears, et cetera, et cetera. So if we need to use AI to help us to be more effective in helping people, we need to make sure that these cultural contexts are addressed and have a rigorous, accurate interpretation of local needs.
Oh my God, that is very poignant. And Khairul, maybe we can jump to you because you lead a company called Pandai, which, if I'm not wrong, means clever in Malay.
You're right.
Okay, that's good to hear. How can we then do what Ilaria mentioned? How can we make AI work in a language that global systems may not always capture well?
All right. So first of all, thank you for having me as well. And you're right. Pandai does mean clever, and it's in Malay. And Malay is not only spoken here in Malaysia; it's spoken in Brunei, Singapore, Indonesia, and some parts of other countries as well. So I guess that's the name actually is a statement as well that any kind of technology, education technology in our case, actually needs to speak to the people. rather than the other way around, right? So when we're building Pandai, so Pandai started 5 years ago, we wanted to build something for students in Malaysia initially, but we knew it's not only for the urban kids, for small town, for rural areas as well. And now more than 1 million students are using Pandai, not only from Malaysia, from outside as well. And then what we've seen is that we started using AI for content generation, for personalizing, making sure the content goes to the right student, grading and other stuff as well. Yes, AI is powerful, but it doesn't really get our language, right? For example, like if you use AI, one of the brilliant models of LLM to, let's say, explain a science concept, for example, right? It can actually explain, say, photosynthesis correctly, but it misses the way the national curriculum explains it. So technically it's right, but contextually, maybe not so much, right? So when it comes to teaching as well, right? In Malaysia alone, we have 500,000 school teachers, and each of the teachers knows how to teach the student correctly based on their experience, pedagogy, and all that. And if you were to teach, for example, English, right? For someone who doesn't understand English at all, right? We cannot use English to teach English. We need to use a language that they already understand, right? And in Malaysia alone, there are 140 living languages in Malaysia alone. And in South Asia, there are 1,500 languages that are spoken by many people around these 10, 11 countries. So it's very, very important to look at the context as well. And in the past, even before Pandai, I've been involved in bringing content from other parts of the world into the country, right? And sometimes when, initially I thought that it's just a matter of translation. For example, a simple math problem that say, like for example, John has 3 basketballs, and Jessica takes 1, how many are left, right? It sounds so simple, just you need to translate that, right? But when it comes to content from other parts of the world, you need to ensure that, for example, the name, like John and Jessica, are they common here in this part of the world? Because we're assessing the math ability, not comprehension or culture, context and all that. And then when it comes to the context in the question as well, basketball, is it a common sport here? If we were to take content from, say, Canada, it might be lacrosse or ice skating, it could be petang from France or kabaddi from India, for example, right? And then we have to look at the culture norms as well. For example, here, if there's animal in the farms, in Malaysia, we don't tend to use pigs, for example, right? Because Muslim culture, it's not haram to use pigs in the content, but we tend to use cows and sheep and goats and others as well. So there's a lot of work that we've done in terms of AI and all that, but it's important to ensure that we use AI correctly so that we don't miss out on these marginalized communities. And yes, AI can speak our languages, but in order to create real impact, we have to make sure that AI think our context as well.
Yeah, that is so important. I mean, it's all these little things that make the whole experience real, right? Devil is in the details. Maybe Gary, I could come to you and tap your vantage point in the industry. How is AI adoption playing out on the ground here? In terms of people, skills, maybe local readiness even.
Okay, thank you, Olivia. So I come from manufacturing, so it's from Penang. And in the manufacturing arena, AI is not new because AI has existed many, many years ago. We talk about machine learning, and then deep learning, reinforcement learning, and of course recently LLM and so on and so forth, right? So this is, it gets popular through LLM. So in industry, even in ViTrox ourselves, we have been using machine learning and deep learning in many, many cases, way 10 years ago already, okay? And we have developed a lot through some open sources, some we have patent algorithms from there, and methodologies as well. So LLM came upon it and to make things easier. So most people are, even executives or office today, are using LLM to help them. For example, in ViTrox, it used to be whereby if there's any automation that's needed to ease certain processes, they will go to our lead department and eventually schedule up an MIS to help them to do that particular project, making it automated and put it into. But today, with certain even AI agents that they have learned by themselves, even I do, they do themselves because the subject matter expertise is the core. And what Khairul did mention is the context.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that is what is on the ground today.
Yeah, it's a lot of, culture, trust, capacity. Yeah, I mean, how do we make sure, like, as these models evolve, they really learn from, like, all our data, all our values, and our context? Maybe, Ilaria, you can take this. You work at an intersection between, like, technology, social impact, and policy. Super exciting place to be. What kind of partnerships do you think we need? Between the private sector, between the government and society, to make sure that AI for good isn't just a slogan.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great slogan, but these days we're kind of sick of slogans, aren't we? I think before we split this open, something for good, right? It's really not about us. That's something that I find is so important. It's not about the people who are doing it, it's about the people we're trying to serve. We have to understand the needs of the people we're trying to serve with humility from their point of view. And when we try to understand problems, it's not just like a flat one-dimensional problem. Oh, youth unemployment, youth illiteracy. Oh, let's just do a great AI program, technology, here's the app, free for you, bye-bye, give you a hug. Why are these kids not able to go to school? Is it because they're sick? Because their family doesn't know how to take care of them? Is it because their mothers do not have money, can't figure out the loans to put them to school? Is it that because the mom needs to find ways to make ends meet, or the dad make ends meet, they force the kid to help them with selling eggs at their chicken stall, so hence the kid can't go to school? There are many problems affected that are all related to one social problem. So first of all is we need to understand the 360 dimension of a problem, and we need to not just solve the primary problem, but all the secondary and tertiary problems for someone, and that's a holistic view. Now, AI for good is a great, so AI is a great equalizer. It helps you scale, it gives accessibility, so we can do things like education tech programs, so we can scale it. I had a friend who had a bus, this is before the AI age, where they would drive a bus into the rural areas of Indonesia, and kids would hop on and hop off, and you can be taught classes, and then they go around, so they come to you, you don't have to go to them. That's great. How do we make sure that you have the funding, the support, and also the depth of the problem? That's what you mentioned about partnerships. So one of my good friends, Shamina Singh, who's a great impact leader at MasterCard, her quote is, and I'm going to steal it, is called, if you want to go fast, you go with the private sector. If you want to go wide, you go with the government. And if you want to go deep, you go with NGOs or civil society organizations. Fantastic, right? And if we want to go forward, we go together. How do we do that? Every government wants something different, and they keep changing who's leading it. And every company, frankly, they say want to do good, but they just want profit. And they want the recognition from their audience. They want people to buy their products, and they want regulators to view them favorably, to let them to do business. Civil society organizations, NGOs want to solve a problem, but they're also sometimes plagued by funding issues, management problems. So my final comment on this is, if you want the right public-private partnership, you have to be very wise and dynamic to understand what drives all these organizations and stakeholders in their countries. You appeal to their destiny, their goal, their desires, and you find ways to make it work. So for example, if the government is running out of money in a country, but you have a fantastic solution for their social problem, and you have all these rich private sector companies who want to enter this market, what do? Fundraise from the private sector, help the private sector design a great CSR slogan so that the private sector companies look good to both their customers and to the government regulators. Then you go to the government and say, this is funded and I'm gonna do the work. Can you open the doors for us? And we give you the credit. Okay, you get the spotlight, but you open the doors for us and you let us do this. Tell us where is the need, the people, and you have the right say. And then you find the right NGOs that have done the right research and the work so that your efficacy and your viability is solid, right? That is what I would say a wise leader who wants to actually do good, that actually has transformational impact on the people that they're trying to help would have to think about.
Yeah, so well put. I mean, just finding alignment with everyone and all your stakeholders, right? I mean, Khairul, do you have anything to say about it? I mean, as Ilaria also mentioned, technology, AI, education, great equalizers. Have you found alignment with everyone?
Yeah, you mentioned, technology can be a great equalizer, right? But historically, what we've seen in education, unfortunately, technology has become a great divider as well. Maybe because of the costs associated with all these technologies, right? So what we've seen is that with new technologies being adopted in education, they have actually widened the gap between the have and the have-nots. And yes, with AI, it's a very powerful tool. It can personalize content based on the student progress with AI-powered quizzes and tutoring and all those stuff as well. But all of us here, like mentioned, we are weird, we are privileged, right? And there are many those students who come from rural background, underprivileged and all that as well. And it comes the problems come to access and equity as well. And for Pandai specifically, right, we're a for-profit company, right? But we're also an accredited social enterprise as well.
Yeah.
So we want to cater to the masses as well. So when we look at our data right now, we're surprised as well that 30.8% of our users, or Pandai users, actually come from rural areas, right? So there are two reasons for this. One, of course, apart from working with partners and all that, right? But one, the things that we could control, one, we introduced something, of course, the free version. So our free version is not like 7-day trial or 1-month trial. It's free indefinitely. So for those who cannot afford Pandai, right, they can still use Pandai indefinitely. Of course, there's some differentiation between the paid version and the free version. If not, no one wants to pay, right? And basically, so the small portion of students who are subscribing, right, subsidize the rest to use for free. And the second reason is that we developed something which is called offline mode. So even students with no internet or intermittent internet access can still use some parts of Pandai as well. Allows them to, of course, they still need to borrow the device from the parents and from friends, but they can still use some parts of Pandai. And when it comes to AI, right, that's the challenge because usually LLM, you need some kind of internet connection. So that's why we'll be working on SLM, working on the edge, allowing, the model to be running inside the student's phone as well. So those are some of the things that we try to do ourselves. But you're right, Ilaria, we need the help of other organizations to work with together in order to amplify our impact.
Yeah, that is so cool that you guys are doing all this. And when we talk about education, we also talk about skills, right? And recently I've been having a lot of conversations with friends and people around about what kind of skill set we need in this age of AI that will allow us to all stay relevant in the future. But maybe, Gary, I'd like to throw this question to you. Firstly, like, what skill set do you think is most relevant? And secondly, in the manufacturing industry, what do you think is the skill set that you see has the most demand right now?
Okay, before I go to the direct skill set that I mentioned to you, let me just elaborate a little bit on Tech for Good and also the students, right? Okay, in ViTrox, we have a company called the ViTrox College. It has 150 students right now. Most of them, or say 90% of them, are in the STEM education, meaning mechatronics, EE, and also computer science. Why do we start an academia of all things, right? It is because 5 years ago, in 2020, we established a purpose statement for our corporation. It is called to contribute to the advancement of society and the well-being of humankind through compassionate innovation. And that Tech for Good is now our second year that we do establish among the universities in Malaysia, and we do competitions. It could be AI, it could be tech innovations, all this, so that inspire children and also schools to design something. So that is where, and design something, that of the design is for the Tech for Good. And to students, why we want to do that? Because at the end of it is the advancement of society. If you don't build skills, that what you mentioned, and skill is not just that you learn something on Coursera, learn something on LinkedIn, it is an inculcation of inbuilt through time. What our students experience together with us in ViTrox? They wash plates after their lunch.
Oh,
they serve meals together with us to the other, it could be other students or even other ViTrox employees. They cut vegetables to serve for the next day, to prepare for the next day. Those are skills. Those are the not only public speaking skills, but the skills that we inculcate as an ASEAN culture. And that skills is a continuous building.
Yeah, we really need more of people like you guys to be in our society and building it up, right? Okay, so we're almost out of time, and I don't want to run over. So before we close, I'd love to get just one quick final thought from each of you. In a sentence or less, what do you think is the single most important thing ASEAN needs to do to make AI inclusive and culturally relevant?
Right.
Khairul, you can start first.
For me, it's important to listen to the local voices. The people that we're serving, either, it could be students, teachers, it could be farmers, it could be factory workers, to ensure that the thing that we build actually come up as a solution that really, really matter. So not just building for them, building with them together as well. So I won't be surprised in the future, maybe, a kid will not only be left out of the AI revolution, but will be leading it from this part of the world as well.
Find the gaps and fill it. What are the gaps? It could be finance problems. If that, then we work on financial inclusion. Can they afford to buy phones? Do they need to have loans? If the gap is digital divide, that they don't know how to use the phone, teach them. Have clinics, have directions, have people understand why are people not able to adopt tech. If it is, like you said, broadband connection, design something as brilliant as your product so that they can actually use it offline or work with the government to ensure there's connectivity. So find the gaps, fill it, so that people can actually be included.
I would say AI is just one of the technology, right? So there are so many. But the continuous learning is the most important. In whether we are from the students or even us, that is already matured and also working for so many years. The curiosity and continuous learning, and be humble of that. We do not know. We continue to learn. And that asking questions is what I say.
I like what you say about AI is just one of the technology only, right?
That's right.
And we have to fill the gap and make sure that what we do really solve the problem. And in Pandai, we like to say, yes, we have AI, but we have PAND as well to make up Pandai.
Yeah, so well put. I mean, ASEAN's AI future won't just be written in code, right? It'll be written in our languages, our cultures, and communities. So thank you all for joining us today. What a wonderful conversation I've had. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.